Hello and welcome. As you can see, today we are on parts of my workbench because, well, I'm going to finish painting the Le Soleil Royal this time, and as you can see, we're running out of a bit of a space issue here. This thing is huge. It's about 80 centimeters, just the hull of this thing, and that's not including all the masts and the bowsprits and all of the things like that, which means that this video will only take part on part of my workbench because the ship is so massive I can't possibly fit it all in the view of the camera, and the bench is just too messy to show you all of it. In addition to that, it's too narrow, so whatever I do, the footage of this video isn't going to be fantastic, but I will try and show you at least some of the job I did in the ship and how I decided to paint it and why. One of the questions I had was, how do you paint this ship model? I've seen some reference model of it, but I didn't really like, for instance, the entire hull painted blue or the entire hull in a sort of mahogany colour. Didn't really sit right with me, so I tried to replicate the best I could the box art of this kit, but there were some issues there as well. I didn't really feel that it was fitting to this huge ship, so I went on the internet and I find this thing. This colour scheme was my absolute favourite, and I can't remember what it's based on, but it's just some guy in Photoshop who played around. I'll add a link to this page in the comments. It's a fantastic guide to Le Soleil Royal and the history and paint scheme and the building of the model kit, especially the heli kit, and I would absolutely recommend it. And this is a colour scheme I went for. As you can see, most of the ship is just painted in a wooden colour with these black stripes going alongside it with two tones of blue, and everything else is golden details, and I think this looks absolutely fantastic. However, if we're going back to originality, people are still discussing if the ship was actually blue or if it might have been red, like the Vasa actually was. Vasa's been depicted with blue loads of times, but it was actually turned out to be red. But since we don't have any evidence of Le Soleil Royal, then we can still speculate. But I think the blue looked fantastic on warships, so we went with blue. For those of you ignoring my ramblings and paying attention to the footage in the background, you'll see I've used a couple of different techniques. Usually I just use the paintbrush after the model has been primed, but in this thing there were so many details and so much small details, and you can see the leaves and everything, that I just wasn't able to, or really couldn't be bothered with, painting by hand. So I bought two calligraphy pens, which I thought worked absolutely beautifully. There are two tones of gold in the two different pens, and also I have this bronze colour that I used to paint with. So all in all, there are three different tones of gold that I used on, well, all sorts of different parts. Yeah, and talking about parts, you know, in the last iteration of this show, in the second video, when I told you that I'd finished the hull, yeah, I lied. I hadn't really done that. It was just the rough texture of the hull, but all these details, all the little trimmings, all the little pegs, I didn't put them on. Why? I don't really know, but I had to put them on now when I was going to paint the entire thing, and just, wow. Well, look at this. How amazing does this thing look? All the statues, all the details. When this thing started coming on, I just felt like, what an incredible kit. What an absolute beauty this thing is. And speaking of the kit, let's just get a few things out of the way right away. Yes, it is not a terribly good kit. I would recommend this to a seasoned modeler, or at least someone who's built a couple of model kits before, because you are going to run into some issues here. For one, the kit doesn't really fit together beautifully. A lot of parts you really have to force into place, and there are loads of cuttings, and there's quite a lot of flash on a lot of parts, and you really have to do a lot to it to make it fit. For instance, this bowsprit thing, yeah, I had to trim that in all sorts of directions to get it to fit properly, and yeah, it's not great. I mean, the ship looked absolutely beautiful. The detailing in this, oh my god, it's fantastic. But the way it goes together, yeah, not brilliant. But anyway, it's still an absolutely beauty to work with. You can see all the colours I used. They're just random colours that I had that I thought looked more or less like the ones that I saw in the picture, and I just started to, yeah, work my way up from there. But just to get one thing here, the gun ports, for instance, they required a bit of trimming, because if you want the ship to have the gun ports open, you have to cut away all the hinges from all the gun ports, and since there are over 110 guns on the ship, yeah, it took some time. But, you know, I just super glued them on, and I think it looks absolutely stunning. I would absolutely recommend, if you're going to do this model, do it with the gun ports open. It just makes the ship come so much more alive, and the model just looks so much better, and you get more variation with all the guns sticking out than if you'd had the gun ports closed. And yeah, although they are a pain in the ass to do, because each gun is, I think it's 7 or 8 pieces, so it takes forever, but yeah, it's absolutely stunning, and I recommend it. So yeah, what do you think? I think the model looks really, really good. It does remind me quite a bit about a British warship from the Napoleonic Wars, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think with the blue and the gold, it pulls you in to reassemble a French ship, and with the red interior, or whatever you're going to call it, I painted it red because I thought, well, if people are going to get shot on this and there's going to be blood everywhere, it might as well be red so you can camouflage that people are going to be horrifically hurt. But yeah, I just painted the entire stern of the ship golden with different shades of gold, if that you can say that, and yeah, with these 2 tones of blue. Didn't really highlight as much as I'd hoped, but you know, just a little nice touch. But I think the model came out great. I think it's really, really good, and the detailing on this is still just an absolute wow. I'm going to continue working on this, and I'm going to weather it, obviously, and then continue on the mast and everything. So if you want to see more of this, then just let me know, and yeah, I'll continue working on it and see where we end up. So thanks for watching, and see you around.